Hello everyone, friends. Today's material will start with the jpt50m. This is a monoblock machine. It certainly has its pros. There are also some cons. I'll tell you about the pros and cons. Again, I'm looking at all these options only from my point of view, from my own specific experience. This machine is a MOPA. It's a new generation. It has an increased pulse power. We'll only look at the data from the technical documentation we have on hand. That is, what the manufacturers themselves, the factories, provided us. This model was assembled on this, let's say, stand from a compact desktop version. So this is specifically the compact version. Inside, the drivers for the rotary axis and power supplies are usually installed. The control board itself is located in the machine's housing, so there can't be any other options here. Also, the source itself, the laser source, is located in the machine's housing. It's almost identical to the jpt50m8, a similar machine, just larger and heavier. The weight of this source is 5.7 kilograms. We weighed it, again, not just the source, but together with the scanner head. I'll say right away, a downside is, well, let's say air cooling. But then again, most laser emitters and laser markers are air-cooled. But it's a downside because this machine has very high power, and accordingly, it can only be placed in rooms with a sufficient temperature for its operation. So, well, in our case, we're looking at 20 degrees plus or minus 4 degrees. Another definite downside, I'll say right away, is that the power supply is connected directly to the source. So here, let's say you can separate them, but that would be a separate process. In that same JPT20M8, there's a special connector on the back where a 24-volt 200-watt power supply connects. In our case, this source consumes 240 watts of power. So that's more than the 20, and accordingly, the power here will be much greater. Also, it'll certainly be a downside, but at the same time, it's a fact, an inevitability, the built-in scanner. That is, the scanner head. Here, it's already sized for the dimensions, the mounting, and the specific terminal connectors. So you won't be able to change anything here. Right, but despite all that, there's built-in control for the scanner itself and a power splitter. The control board is for LMC, a version from ESCAD 2.0. It's the light version. It doesn't work with some software versions, only with specific ones, so you'll have to work that out. What's the advantage of this machine? Well, let's start in order. First of all, it's the overall dimensions. Installing such a machine is possible almost anywhere. In most cases, I usually use this machine without the lower box, just using the platform and the upper part. Again, installing such a source is possible on any mechanical arms, any platforms or bases. You can put it anywhere. You won't have to worry about connecting a fiber optic cable. Just 24-volt power and a simple USB Type-C cable. Everything is simple and logical. That's exactly why I love these machines. The next point is also about the same machine. It's very quiet. Let's just say there are times when you work for, well, 3, 4, or 5 hours, close the office, leave, and then the next day you suddenly remember you didn't turn it off because it makes no noise. I mean, there's practically no noise coming from it. The fan operates in a dynamic mood, meaning the source heats up, they start, cool down, and then shut off. So this machine definitely has its pros, and it definitely has its cons. As for the cons, switching to a different scanner is theoretically possible, but in practice, it creates extra, let's say, difficulties, where you'd need to make specific adapters plus separate control connections, and then connect an LMC board separately to control the scanner itself. And, of course, install an additional power supply for 12 or 15 volts, give or take, at 2 amps. Now, the next downside I see, at least in this particular build, is that the standard lenses usually used for laser markers are typically 85, pitch 1, meaning an 85mm thread diameter with a 1mm thread pitch. In this case, however, lenses with a different thread pitch are used, meaning a 55 diameter, though the thread pitch is still 1mm. These lenses aren't popular, and you won't find much of a selection for them either. So let's just say you won't be able to just buy any lens for any size anywhere. You'll have to make do with what's available, well, say on the internet. Right. So weighing the pros and cons, I'll say right away that while there are some quirks here, those quirks are always outweighed by the many benefits. Now, I worked with a similar JPT-28 machine for over 2 years. I'll tell you right now, my impressions were nothing but positive. I didn't even want to sell the machine. I only sold it because I bought this little machine right here. Now, regarding questions about working with these markers or about purchasing them, naturally, I'll leave the phone number in the description below this video, so just take the number, go to WhatsApp, and ask any specific questions you have. But again, I'll repeat, the sale can be made from our store in the city of Krasnodar. You can also purchase directly from China without our involvement or mediation. But I'm telling you now, all those options will be, let's say, at your own personal risk, meaning the delivery, transportation, and packaging. Moving on now. If you're wondering if it's hard to learn how to work on these machines, well, there are actually many procedures where you have to, let's say, monitor temperature settings, room humidity, line voltage, the workpieces themselves, frequency modes, pulse control, and much more. I understand that in the beginning it seems difficult, like, well, how do I learn all this? How do I make sense of it? Here's a training course for beginners, or let's say for dummies. Meaning, when you don't understand anything, you get the course and start learning bit by bit from start to finish. In this case, we also have a course, and it's also available for sale. So if you're interested in buying the course separately, check the description for the phone number. You can call that number to get this beginner's course and start marking or engraving with these fiber laser markers. Anyway, I'm Igor, and this is the Gravity Engraving channel. But today we have a new channel, Typal. It's a blend of two words, type and people, as in people. So we're combining a type of people, specifically people who do engraving. I'll be making a separate video for this machine review. It'll briefly show how it works and how to operate it. The technical documentation for this equipment is included, so we'll either review it separately or attach photos. You can study the frequency range, its expansion, power adjustment, capabilities, and the nominal frequency. All of that will be specified in the technical documentation for this equipment. I also usually scan this documentation and add it to the training materials. This is important because if you buy the training material, it covers the general workflow for laser equipment, basically how to use laser machines. Then you can find the technical documentation for your specific source or machine and use it to select the right settings for your work. So you should always take all these factors into account. And again, I'm doing this specifically for you. So on the Typal channel, we'll look at the equipment, its appearance, dimensions, and size. We're going to measure it all out together today. Now, on the Gravity Engraving channel, this is Igor again, we'll have more detailed step-by-step videos. The language and the overall presentation style will be a bit different there. It'll be more of a first-person perspective. So in this video, we're just going to focus on the overall dimensions. Soon, we'll definitely film a review of how this machine operates, its technical specs, and what it can do. The overall dimensions of this equipment are 65 centimeters in height from the bottom edge to the top. My ruler isn't quite long enough here. The length of the source itself without the scanning head is 34 centimeters, and 44 centimeters with it. The height of the source from the bottom edge to the top edge is 13 centimeters. The width of this source is 10 centimeters. It's actually a very well-sized source that's easy to use and work with. There's a reason I bought it for my workshop. After working with a similar lower power source for a while, I realized this machine is very convenient, compact, and reliable. You can really work and make money with it. I wouldn't say you should push this machine to the limit with mass production unless you're running it at 80 or 90% power. Yes, you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. We've had many orders specifically for engraving knives, marking pens, and lighters. All of that was done on the jp50m8 machine. The same will be true for this equipment as well. We'll also be doing lots of lighters, pens, tags, engraving those same stones, or marking, or branding, or even, let's say, making any logos or any kind of merch related to any company or any organization. So it'll all be done on this equipment. We also have other machines for sale in our workshop, the same machines from JPT, the M7 series and the LP series. We try not to sell the Q-Switch series because those machines have a limited frequency range and, well, they work in a peculiar way. Right, and there are certain technical specs that I don't really agree with when it comes to working with those machines. So basically, to recap, the JPT50M8 machine with these dimensions and specifications. As always, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. Yeah, there'll be plenty of useful and necessary info that you can check out and basically use for your own needs. Right. There'll also be lots of technical specs related specifically to engraving or things like working with ESCAD 2.0 or ESCAD 3.0. Guys, as always, this was the Gravity Engraving channel and the Typal channel. Igor from the city of Krasnodar. Have a great day, everyone, and bye bye.